We'll call to order the meeting of the Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation. If you'll bow your heads with me, I'll give the invocation. Lord, thank you again for the ability to live in such a great city. Thank you for all the resources that you've given us. We ask that you help us be good stewards of them, good stewards of our time today, and good stewards of the wisdom that you so freely share with us, which we pray for. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, next item on the agenda is the visitors and citizens forum. Do we have anybody signed up or emailed in? Do not? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular EIC meeting held on September 21st, 2020, which was included in your packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Still got Kent listed as vice president
Okay,
on the members.
can you make that change?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
I'll make that change.
With that change, does your motion still stand, Gary?
Yes, it does.
All right, second?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor, raise your right hand. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the monthly reports, first from KEDC. Mr. Salinas, what good news do you have for us?
All right. Plenty, all the time. All right. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'll start with some of the local economic indicators. The unemployment rate for the month of September, we're at 5.7%. At the same time frame, same time a year ago, we're at about 3%. So we're slowly getting back to that pre-COVID level. Keep in mind that at the height of COVID, we were at about 12.8%. That was back in March, April of this year. So we're making huge strides, and we continue to be well below the state and the national average. I expect those numbers to start dropping the closer that we get to the holidays, and hopefully right at the pre-COVID levels. As far as some of projects and local industry, I'm happy to announce that Kerr County Commissioners Court, or the Commission, approved last Tuesday a 100% tax abatement for Project Skymaster, which is Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing. That is worth about $534,000 over a 10-year period. Now, if you look at what that facility was generating in the previous 10 years, it was generating about $47,000. So that was, from 2010 or 2009 to this year. But with KMM's or Skymaster's investment of $8.3 million in the next 10 years, which is a combination of the build out that they're going to have and the equipment that they're going to be bringing in, by year 10 of when the abatement expires, the county will be collecting about $107,000 in that first year. The next year, which would be year 12, they'll be collecting about $120,000 to $124,000, so on and so forth. So, as you can see, it's going to be high value once the abatement expires. One of the things that we noted when we were presenting at the County Commissioners Court last week is that if you just look at the payroll alone, in the first 10 years, they're going to be paying about $9.7 million, so almost $10 million in those first 10 years. And in that payroll, if you put it through the multiplier effect and what have you, that's about $80 million in economic impact. What that means is that, yes, there is an abatement or a deferment, as we like to say sometimes. You're going to see that money coming back by way of extra money that's going to be in people's pockets, raising that per capita income for our local residents. Now, with Killdeer, as far as jobs, one of the things that they said when we met with them last week is that they received about 100 applications, a little over 100 applications from local residents at their headquarters up in North Dakota. So there's a lot of people that are already asking about wanting to work for the company. At our office alone, we've received about 25 combination of resumes and inquiries about wanting to work for the company. So there's definitely a lot of buzz out there and a lot of want or desire from our local residents wanting to work there. They are looking at hiring their first cohort of employees by end of year, and in turn start that training process, which there's some Texas Workforce Commission funds available for them to start doing that, and that was through our organization. About a month ago, we had a dinner between the city, the EIC, the KDC, and Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing with Senator Buckingham. Thanks to Maggie McGee, she was there on behalf of the EIC. And Kristen, who was a representative for Killdeer, had some great FaceTime with the senator. They had some very good dialogue. And again, it was just about building those relationships And what I liked is they started talking about future projects, how to further expand what they're doing here with the support of the senator's office. One of the things that we did on behalf of the KEDC, we expressed our support for the Texas Enterprise Fund. They basically needed to, check that off their list. They needed to provide their support, a letter of recommendation. Without that, the governor or the office of the governor was not going to approve the application. So they were key in making sure that they got those state monies to expand down here. On the national side, we spoke at International Economic Development Council's annual conference last week. We were selected to be a speaker for one of their sessions. There was the technology, transportation, and advanced manufacturing session. It was us. It was just us and Bell Helicopters. It was pretty interesting. So Bell Helicopter was providing their input as far as advanced manufacturing. It was in the aerospace sector, and then us from an economic development standpoint. So we're the only economic developer to really speak to that effect. And again, great opportunity for us to really pitch Kerrville, talk about the project, so on and so forth. Tomorrow, we're actually on a national podcast. It's called America's Jobs, with a prominent economic development consultant. And again, it's about SkyMaster. They want us to kind of go on there and talk about the impact this project is going to have. How did a community like Kerrville pull this deal together? And again, great platform for us to really make a pitch about, Kerrville. Hey, look at us, right? I mean, if you're looking at investing, we know how to make deals happen.
How many people will be in attendance for this?
For that one, the IEDC, that one had about 2,500 people that were in attendance. For this one, I'm not too sure, but it's very well. This particular consultant, I know last time he told me he disclosed his number of people on social media, and his was upward about 30,000+ people that he's connected with. So whether they watch it live or not, what I like about it is that it just keeps on living, after that. Okay, so on the local side, top employers, James Avery, we met with him last week, city manager, myself, Amy was there as well. And they've said that they've started to rehire a lot of the people that were working there because of COVID. They had to let some people go, but they've already brought a lot of them back, and they're basically getting close to pre-COVID levels. So that was very good news. The state hospital, they've got that $30 million construction project that they're working on, and they've said that they've already started looking for people. They're in a hiring mode, and they need to get 250 people once the construction project is complete, which is basically, I think it's the second quarter of next year.
It's under construction now, Gil?
Correct,
Project,
yes,
yeah.
and that's $30 million project. Yeah, expanding that facility. Prime Metal Buildings, their facility is complete. They've hired their first 10 employees, I believe, very good wages. We have a pending visit and a site tour next month with them. So again, just these new projects and some of the expansions, that's what's helping keep our economy going during this COVID times, which a lot of communities just wish that they were able to tell that narrative. Now, along those lines, just a quick side story. We did have a company that a couple of weeks ago, they requested a manufacturing salary survey, which is something that we do in-house. Actually, we use a lot of people. Teresa works on that one. And usually what it is, they want to know, okay, what are the other companies paying? And reason being, they said, look, there's new companies that are coming in, SkyMaster's coming in. We need to be competitive and be paying the wages that they're paying in order to recruit, but also to retain our employees. So that's a great example of how one particular project coming in really starts having a huge impact in the entire region and with some of the other companies. Me as an economic developer and being a nerd in that field, I just love connecting those dots. So I guess, again, I can't stress enough this board's investment. We're already starting to see that ripple effect in full display.
Who's going to conduct the salary survey?
I'm sorry?
Who's going to conduct the survey?
Teresa's the one that does that survey, so
Oh, she
that's
does.
on an ongoing basis. So
Oh,
it's-
okay.
we're
You're already
continually.
You're running that annually already.
Yeah, exactly, correct. And that information is available. There's the in-house version and the version that we can disclose to the public. When it's amongst the top 10 employers, then we're able to disclose a little bit more. We just have to be careful of not identifying the companies that are disclosing their wages, if that makes sense. So again, we can't stress enough, the importance of this board's investment. We're seeing that ripple effect. And what it means is basically if this company starts increasing their wages and as more money, we're increasing the per capita income of our local residents, which in turn is more disposable income for our local businesses. And that's that ripple effect. Okay, so wrapping up, at our next board meeting, we'll be presenting our end-of-year report to all our different stakeholder groups. That includes KDC, EIC, city, county, and the KPUB. We'll be presenting our financials, our budget, how we're trending ahead for our budget year, deliverables for the organization, market initiatives, earned media, lead generation, some of the deals that we've closed, and also the deals that we were not able to secure and why we're not able to secure those. And then also we're gonna have a little section there about COVID, its impact, and I'm proud to say how our organization partnering with other entities in the community, we're able to push back as far as COVID and continue on a very good trend as far as our local economy. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Teresa, and I know I've mentioned national platform a few times. She's got some very exciting news about the current work that we're doing, that she's doing, also some of our strategy, and which in addition to the Skymaster Killdeer project, how some of the things that we're working on is really getting us out there on the national radar. Before I turn it over to her, any questions?
Gil, I have just one question. You mentioned in your year-end review, you're going to talk a little bit about how COVID impacted the community. Is there any effort to collect any data or surveys or anything like that of our local employers to see how they fared throughout COVID, to identify sectors that were hit particularly hard or any way so we can identify who might need more help than others?
I'm glad you brought that up. So that's, we started that almost day one. Well, within a few days from COVID hitting. We sent out 2 surveys, and I think I had mentioned this at one of the previous meetings that we got like 200 plus responses back from just surveying the local community. And in working with our partners, the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation, they got about 300 responses back. So I was like, that's pretty impressive, because it's very hard to get information back from businesses. So we have a business community that's very involved. So we have that data. We'll be presenting it at next month's meeting. I will say, and I know I was quoted in the paper early on, that unfortunately there are some businesses that we're not going to make it, and there's not much we can do in that regard. But then there's some other ones that were, I can't compare, but they were able to. I don't want to use the word pivot because everybody's been using the word pivot, but they pivoted, right? And they were able to succeed. And then there's other, we've seen other businesses that just came in, just brand new businesses, these local entrepreneurs that really took it to a whole different level. So like everything else, some did not fare well, but we did see in our community that a lot other ones did a lot better.
Are you going to extract from that like best practices or some information that would help people understand what they can do?
And that's for our end of year report back in December. Once we start internally analyzing everything, that's one of the things that we do as far as the best practices.
The ones that survived and the ones that didn't survive.
Yes, and then
Even
dovetailing.
there's extenuating circumstances sometimes.
Nobody's ever experienced anything like this around the world. But our unemployment rate and our sales tax revenue and some of our economic indicators shows that Kerrville did very, very well, and it was no accident. Is that one of the things, me coming in from the outside, I noticed that we had that wildcatter spirit here. That is very alive and well here, and I have not seen in other parts of the state. So yes, we're going to be including that, and that dovetails into our work in launching an entrepreneur center and using some of that data for some of the businesses that are going to be signing up.
Thank you, Gil.
Gil,
All
could
right.
you speak to, for just a second, to the efforts with regard to Small Business Development Center? Where are you in that
Okay.
evolution?
All right, so we've gone from the exploratory phase to now making it a little bit more concrete, which means we've already put it down on paper. Teresa and myself, you and I have had some of those discussions as far as what it would look like, Maggie as well. We're looking to present that at next month's meeting, but it's gonna be more in December when we'll roll out a plan. And because of COVID, the vision, was to essentially have a facility, and essentially that's where office would be at. Because some of the better EDOs out there, that's what they do. They have an entrepreneur innovation center. So you walk into the EDO's office and it just opens up, and you have this talent in there, and it's this vibe that you pick up. And as a prospect coming in, I mean, you just feed off of that. So that's the vision. But because of COVID, we're gonna start it off as a virtual kind of center. And then let it, grow from there, eventually moving into some kind of a facility. Now, and Teresa can talk about this at next board's meeting a little bit more as far as the 40 under 40 initiative that we had, which was, it was a hit. I mean, people just absolutely loved that. And to me, it was like, okay, so we have a young population that actually wants to do something. Well, they don't know that they're actually the first applicants for our entrepreneur center. Because we got so many great ideas out of that, and we identified a few projects, and we're like, okay, all they need is just that little, well, the definition, right? Incubation, that little push to get them off the ground. So really, there was a little bit of science going into that when we started developing the 40 under 40, and said, once that finishes, that dovetails, or that'll feather into our laps as far as that entrepreneur center that we're looking for.
Seed money.
That's the other phase, and we all know that there's a lot of retired executives, there's venture capitalists in town, and throughout the Hill Country that have time, and in certain cases, money, and we're gonna be tapping into that.
Look forward to that.
Yep, that'll be exciting. All right, I will have Teresa come in and talk shop about what she has to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So as Gil mentioned, a lot of our program of work that we did in 2020, especially during COVID, again, I'm going to use that word that everybody is using, showed that we were able to adapt and pivot our programming in the midst of COVID. And very happy to say that because of that work, both cumulative and in the individual programs, we were benefited by receiving 4 of the IEDC Excellence in Economic Development Awards. And just to give you a little bit of background on what that is, these recognize the world's best economic development programs and partnerships, marketing materials, and the year's most influential leaders. 35 award categories honor organizations and individuals for their efforts in creating positive change in urban, suburban, as well as rural communities. And these awards are judged by a diverse panel of economic and community developers from around the world, following a nomination process that's held every single year for that group. And IEDC received over 500 submissions from 4 countries. So just a little bit more background, quote from the CEO of One Columbus and IEDC board chair, who's Kenny McDonald, said, "The winners of IEDC Excellence in Economic Development Awards represent the very best of economic development and exemplify the ingenuity, integrity, and leadership that our profession strives for each and every day." So again, we were very happy that we were in the midst of those 500 submissions in 4 countries. So we received, just one more other point, another part of that key component of judging and giving the awards is the program's ability to transfer and adapt with only in the community, but as well as other organizations and other communities across the world. So we received 4 silver awards. We received a silver award for our industry workforce roundtable, which was under the category of partnerships in education. And as most of you know, we've talked about this quite often about our quarterly reports, and that really began when Gil invited the Texas Workforce Commission to come to the Hill Country Economic Summit. And that was the start of a couple of other industry workforce roundtable events that ultimately led to 2 of those skills development grant funds, and of course the Texas Enterprise Fund, which has now totaled $1.3 million of investment into the community. We also received a silver award for the digital media category for the Over the Fence video podcast. And that was really not only our way to be able to promote the businesses during COVID, those that had opportunity and ideas to give to other businesses, but it was also, again, our effort within our BREE program to continue those connections, to have those BREE visits in just a little bit more of a different manner. We also received a silver award for the special purpose website category, and that is for the kerrvilletogether.com website. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank our local collaborators in that who provided such incredible information for the mapping tools that were built. The businesses, the CVB participated very, very heavily in the beginning part of that with providing businesses that were open, how they were open, and that was all part of a mapping tool on that website. And then, of course, the City of Kerrville and the Chamber of Commerce for their information about downtown programs, SBA, grants, loan information. That was also in the very beginning of that website, the part to help our community come together, have one page to go to be able to get all of that information. Since then, in part of this whole transferability of the program, it's now become more of a recovery and resiliency website. And so more and more of that information as we progress throughout the pandemic will be geared towards some of the similar stuff that Gil was talking about as far as what is our labor shed, what are our employment numbers, any information that we can provide to the businesses, who was hurt the most, how can we adapt that moving forward.
What's the hit rate you're getting on that website now? We used to track that at old KEDC, and
Yeah,
we talked about the Russians would come and all that stuff.
yeah.
So what's your hit? What's your hits now?
I'd have to go back and check on the Kerrville Together. I did not check prior to this meeting, but in the past, during COVID and moving through that entire period, we were at easily 300.
Really?
Yeah. So, and again, for a community our size and looking at the people that are connecting with that website, that's very meaningful.
Yeah, it is.
So.
It's good.
And then our last award was our Bronze Award for the cumulative package of all of our BREE initiatives. And of course, within that was the Kerrville Together website, but also the 40 Under 40 event, the efforts that we were able to participate in for the P2P initiative. We also created and hosted those COVID-19 webinar series. And we co-hosted the Office of the Governor's Small Business webinar series, the foundation of that industry roundtable, the foundation and launch of the Over the Fence podcast, Gil's participation in the community weekly COVID updates, and again, the development of those business impact surveys. And so all of this will continue as we move forward into our next year. And next month, we'll be happy to share some of the new programs that are going to be coming off of what we established in 2020. Any other questions?
Thank you for all the great work.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
very good.
All right, we've got the monthly financial report in 2 places on the agenda. We'll take it after Mr. Hoppy, if you'll present an update on the project status. Everybody received the written version in your report Do y'all have any questions or comments that you want to make on the status of the current projects that we're funding?
No?
No?
Good.
Okay.
Got any passing comments you want to share?
I think big activity last month was opening up the Arcadia Theater, so certainly a great community highlight, for Kerrville, and in large part due to the assistance of EIC in making that project work. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the monthly financial reports. Ms. Dozier? We missed you last month.
I missed y'all too. Good to see you again. Okay, I'm going to go through the monthly financials. We're going to look at the month of September. So this is the last month of our fiscal year. So we have some pretty much complete total year numbers. We're going to start with the income statement here. And I'm looking at the second column over that is the current period. So for the month of September, EIC received sales tax of almost 343,000. Continues to just astound me. That was 11.6% higher than September of 2019. And you'll remember that this is 2 months in arrears, so this represents sales that actually took place in July. And we saw, when we looked at the individual taxpayer data, particular strength in both the retail category and the manufacturing categories. And that's especially good news because those are two of our largest categories. Retail is by far the largest. So when we see strength there, that really increases the sales tax collected overall. And within retail, we continue to see home improvement stores, big box stores, and online retailers doing very well. We have already received sales tax in October. Sales tax in October is up 6% compared to October of the previous year. So yeah, continues very strong. It's crazy to see on that percent of budget column that I'm reporting that we have exceeded budget for the year in sales tax, better than budget year to date. So
That's the original budget, not the COVID.
No, that's the original.
that's the original, yeah,
original
that's
budget.
the original budget, not any of our COVID assumptions.
Yeah.
So,
4.4% over, something like that?
yeah, so 4% over. And I think we'll actually end the year even a little higher than that. We have to do some year-end financial reporting adjustments that we won't have final numbers for until November, but I think it's going to be even a little bit better than that. So yeah, never expected to be here at this time telling you that, but we will take it for sure. So. Also on the revenue category here, you'll see the loan proceeds of $1 million coming in from KPUB related to the Killdeer project. And looking down at expenditures for the month, we had the normal monthly expenditures for professional services that the city provides and the debt service that EIC funds. And then as far as projects go, 26,000, a little over that, went out to the Doyle School. They continue to make good progress, and that was mostly architects' fees that they were paying. And then you'll see the big number there for the Killdeer project. So all the agreements are finalized and executed. The property was purchased, transferred. In addition, there were some legal fees and engineering fees that were paid. And so that gets us to a bottom line cash balance that we'll see on the cash flow forecast of almost $2.4 million at the end of the month. And looking forward, cash balances look strong. That bottom line number there on the ending cash balance, you'll see ranging from $2 million to $2.8 million over the course of fiscal year 2021. This is with the assumption that sales tax is decreasing 6%, which we haven't seen that happen yet, but we have a very conservative projection in there. The EIC funds are still invested in TextPool, which is completely liquid, but now is earning 24 basis points, so 0.24%. But the positive side of those low interest rates is the refunding that is just about complete. So that's the refinancing of the certificates of obligation. The 2012 certificates of obligation are part of that refunding, and EIC pays the debt service on those. We received our pricing on September 22nd, and when they broke out just the EIC 2012 portion, the refinancing true interest costs, so this is kind of like the interest rate on the refinance debt, 1.26%. So just crazy low rates on that side as well. So that's,
Sign us up.
That's
yeah,
right.
so that's the
That's
positive side of the low interest rates.
And don't, off-the-wall question, but do you recall what that equated out to a savings? About 170,000, wasn't it?
Yeah,
74 or something.
175,000 for the EIC
EIC
portion of
portion,
it, yeah. This was also done in combination with some 2013 debt issued for water projects. So in total, over 800,000 in savings for the whole thing, but the EIC portion, 175,000. And that's over the remaining life of the debt, so through 2031. So we'll start seeing those savings in 2021. Not a lot of savings in 2021, like $5,000 less, but anyway, they'll continue over the remaining life of that debt to total up to the 175,000. And that deal is officially closing this week on October 22nd. So positive news there. Then the last page, we just have some financial analysis that shows the remaining project commitments that we have in sales tax analysis. I know EA has project updates if you have particular questions, but we do expect the landing to be wrapping up relatively soon and paying out some money there. And then, Doyle School's continuing on along pretty quickly. And then there's still some remaining Killdeer payments as that project progresses.
Well, while you're on Killdeer,
Yes.
remind us, what is the amortization period on the KPUB loan?
So it's a 4-year loan, and we did go back and forth with KPUB. They were the ones that asked for a 4-year loan, a little bit lower. And it is interest only for the first 3 years, and then that balloon payment in 2024 of $1 million. But we do have, EIC does have the option of, any early principal payments that they may want to consider, so.
And that was at 2%, wasn't it?
Correct, that's at 2%. Yeah, 2%'s looking, like a
Sounds
high
horrible.
interest rate. Right.
We should have negotiated for it.
Can't believe we're paying 2%.
Right. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the Kerrville-Kirk County Airport update. Ms. Rohr, thank you for coming.
Definitely, thanks for being invited. We did a pretty extensive review of our strategic plan with the city and the county last week, and so I have some exhibits that I'll go through with you here if we've got time. So I don't know, do I hand it to you or do I just hand it out?
I can hand it out.
I didn't quite remember how to make this work. But I wanted to give you an update on our two EIC projects that we have. The first is the building that we call the Horseshoe. We got the demo completed. I'm probably the happiest person in Kirk County. So the Horseshoe has been demoed. The site looks great. It's all cleared out. All that old stuff is gone. And we had a pretty bad windstorm that came through at the end of July. And we were like, just a little bit back and forth, but we're pleased that we've got it down. And we made sure that the actual existing building slab where the Horseshoe had been was maintained in good condition, even with all the demo work that was going on, as well as a building behind it. So we've got some good opportunities there. So Amy, I'll be submitting some bills in here for the demo, so next time you take a look at your report, I think it's going to be probably, my calculations, it's about $33,000 of the $150,000 worth of site work that we've done. So next time you come in, it might be 22%. So we'll be working on spending some money here. I want to give you some ideas of some of our opportunities that we've had come up to us at the Horseshoe. So we've, both Gil and I were working with 2 higher education program folks during all of these past few months, and they are both sort of interested in the Horseshoe as a location for different type of aviation and aeronautical activities, and basically in respect to education and teaching. So the first one, we somehow managed, and I don't know, and you were involved with this too. They both of them ended up being in town at the same time, and they both ended up crossing paths, and then they met for lunch, and then they came back and talked to me after they talked to EIC. So we got everybody sorted together. So the first is both are higher education programs, so post-high school programs. Both are interested in the Horseshoe, or at least the airport as a location. One is actually a full flight training program for folks to be able to get a bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering, and then be able to get their actually private license, and then through their commercial, and maybe through their what they call the ATP. So in other words, it's a full 4-year program as part of a college education thing. So those folks are interested in a hangar, know where a hangar can go, and they're interested in buying aircraft, and they're interested in doing that type of aviation schooling here at the airport. I have a meeting tomorrow with them. The other group is I'm going to call them an established trade school at another location, and they are physically constrained at their existing location, and they're looking for another campus. So these are folks that Gil and Teresa have been meeting with, and they are more in the trade school operation piece of working to train folks that will repair and maintain aircraft. So we have 2 folks that are kind of wanting to do the same thing. I've got one good chunk of land over there that I could probably make both of them happen because there are synergies between both of them. So they kind of felt that the meeting each other and talking to each other, there might actually be something that works with both. So anyway, I'm pretty excited to have that. That's a great location for that type of education programs for both, either or both, 1, 2. We'll figure out who we can get working with the best, but I was pretty excited about that outcome. So that was good for the Horseshoe. So we'll have more information here as it comes forth. The second place is that you've given us money for is, so on that map, the Horseshoe is area number 5. The area that we've been working on with the T-Hangar project is area number 4. We have area so that the pads are adjacent to the T-Hangar project, so you guys are sort of symbiotic with the T-Hangar. So we received some engineers' estimates that were extremely high, and we're grinding our stomach of what to do. And so hopefully we'll be going to the board next week with a solution of at least going out and getting something built out there. I think doing nothing probably isn't the right choice, but doing something to keep our folks moved along might be at least take care of some of the burdens that we have with our T-Hangar waiting list and get things going, and then be able to provide opportunities for the investment that you all have decided to make in the airport as well. So hopefully I'll have more information to present to you.
What was the engineering issues?
It wasn't, engineering issues were that the site, the cost estimates were a lot higher.
Site work?
Site work, and the buildings were higher than expected.
Didn't that come from TechShot engineers? So we don't actually have bids.
No, it's just an engineer's estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna just go on, we're gonna do some work on shifting some locations, increasing, making the scope a little bit more defined, and see where we go from there. But it was quite a bit of difference. So anyway, it was just sort of making sure that we didn't overspend when we know that capital was tight and things were here.
Mary, how does that have to work? I know y'all have to work hand in hand with TechStop
Yes.
Aviation. But, so we sent them our preliminary idea, and then they came back with this engineering study?
Yeah, they did a whole due diligence study and a project feasibility, and it took soil borings and grading and did all that, and it was quite a bit. I mean, it was almost double than what we had earlier expected.
Well, I know, I remember seeing the numbers in previous meetings, and those numbers were ludicrous in my opinion.
Yeah, so
Okay.
That's where we're at, is working on coming up with a better program, probably doing some adjustments, reducing the scope a little bit, but having the opportunity for us to expand if the numbers come in better. But right now, it's been an unusual time for getting estimates and bids. It's sort of folks, and I mean, I've been trying to get estimates for some of my projects, and contractors and materials are hard to find, and things, and commodities are just kind of all over the board. So we'll see where we are with the bids, but we're going to at least get something started out there.
Okay.
That was the other things. Then just as Gil was talking about how important relationships are and relationship building is, one of our key items on our list when we came up with this very high estimate was to work with TxDOT Aviation. So last week we went into Austin and visited with the new director of TxDOT Aviation as well as his key members of staff. And if y'all don't recognize what's going on in other parts of the country, again, kind of what Gil and Teresa are saying, that we're so fortunate here to have the activities that we have going on here, because so much of the rest of the country, even the rest of the state, is like shut down. So these were basically the direct reports to the director of TxDOT Aviation, and they probably hadn't seen each other since March 12th when the pandemic hit in Austin. So they have all been working from home. They've all been separated. They have the communication patterns are so stifled and awkward. And I mean, they were just glad to see everybody. I mean, they hadn't even seen anybody in months. So it was actually a very good meeting. We walked through a lot of the different things that we have going on with the airport. And again, I'm going to say kind of like what Gil and Teresa were, they were surprised of what we've got going on here. And so it was great to be able to present to them that things are really happening in Kerrville, and we need their help and support, and that we want to go ahead and move forward with this program. And I think we made everybody feel pretty good when we got done with all of that. I think they thought it was going to be a downer meeting, that we were going to come complain about the T hangars, and instead we said, look at what we're doing out here, and that's what I have that map in front of you to go do. So I figured I'd give you a high-level update of what I presented to TxDOT, and we presented on our strategic plan. So like Gil and Teresa, we end up having a lot of things going on, which is kind of surprising in the economic conditions that we've all been thinking about. So that's sort of what my update is for with respect to what you have. But let's just talk about this little map. I kind of color coded it a little bit. Oh, you got one too? Okay, good. So I know I got killdeer here outside the fence, but the wave of killdeer has definitely come to the airport too. So thank you very much for everyone's efforts and your outreach to them, because some of our major projects were watching the program and saw the news press releases and see what was going on, and it was just really great for us to be able to announce what was happening. And so, as I'm talking to TxDOT Aviation, I said we've got a company that's coming in with 200 jobs across the street, but they're avionics based. It was like kind of what? So, and that was what was going on. So it was great. So thank you very much. It's quite a big of an accomplishment. At the strategic planning meeting that Gary and EA and Mike were at, the president of the new CEO of Mooney called in, and then we met with him afterwards, and they are working on a project to bring in a company that would build 100 aircraft inside the existing Mooney facility. So again, they know that they need to bring jobs. They know that they need to be doing things out there. They recognize what's going on with the lease, and they're working the best to how to make sure that that happens for them as well. So again, another piece of this was just nice to be able to talk about our 23 acres that we have sitting over there, and know that we've got some activity of folks wanting to be there and wanting to do technology transfer, and basically start working on providing more jobs here to Kerrville again. So I was just, I'm here. Then here's number 4, which is what we just talked about, was our aviation program and job training and bringing in jobs into our area. So I've kind of looked at this kind of what I call the west side as our node for kind of manufacturing and training over here. In other words, that kind of resembles what happens over here. It becomes more of a jobs and training emphasis here, and really start to talk about the strategic planning and the 2050 plan about this being truly an employment hub. So in other words, we're starting to put some of those parts and pieces together in here. Area number 4 is the T hangar area, and where you all have provided us funds to be able to put some pads. So that area, once we get kind of some of the infrastructure in, would be available for private investment as well. Area number 3, we have a private investor that actually wants to build 50 box hangars there. So he and his family have built hangars before in out in Utah, I believe, or Salt Lake City, and they want to invest into our airport to actually take care of some of the tenants that we're not able to take care of with the T-hangar project. So he's come in and presented to our board twice of actually building hangars out there. So again, we've got folks that are starting to work on investing in the community and in the airport ourselves and coming to us. And then finally, the last piece of part is area number 1. That's a group out of Dallas, Fort Worth. They have what's called a maintenance and repair operation. It's the kind of the acronym in the aviation business is called an MRO. So in other words, it's a place where someone can bring in a corporate jet or a business jet and have the maintenance done, repair done, and then the operations be taken care of. They have selected Kerrville as their second South Texas campus. So they are keeping their Dallas campus open and operating, and they want to expand their business, and they believe that Kerrville is the place to be. Hey, how's that?
That's
Pretty
really
cool.
exciting.
Isn't that really exciting?
That's
So
very exciting.
it's so much fun to be able to talk about this. I'm kind of like, I put this map together, whatever, a year ago, and like all of a sudden, the pieces are falling into place. So thank you for all your work that you've done, and everybody all around here that have supported all of us as we go through this. So they are actually working out of. Their first phase is working out of a hangar that's owned or that's rented by the FBO. So they'll be a tenant of Kerrville Aviation, and hope to have an avionics shop done, open up by the end of the year, and then be able to sell parts out of that place by the end of the year, and then start their MRO business. So it might take 3 or 4 years for them to get up to the business, but they would have jet traffic come in and then have work done on their planes, and then eventually want a 40,000-foot hangar to be able to put their stuff in. So again, we've got opportunities here that you sit here and you kind of pinch yourself going, how did all this happen within the past few years? So it's pretty exciting to be
The
here.
box hangar guys will probably impact your waiting list for the T-hangars, won't it?
Yeah, they will. It's a different product, in other words, and it's probably going to be more expensive. And I'm hoping it'll be higher value aircraft. So it'll be folks that I can't do a very good job on. I can help with planes like myself, my single engine plane. So it'll be folks that have a nicer plane and want a box hangar that they want for themselves. I think it's a different market. So there's some planes that get to a certain wing length and they can't fit into T hangars easily. So anyone that calls up with respect to wanting that type of activity, I send over to Mark. So that's
Sure.
how I've been over to Matt and get that squared away. So anyway, so I just wanted to kind of show you what I shared with TxDOT and was able to visit with them and have been talking about as part of our strategic plan that
Mary?
these folks were in.
Excuse me, I just have
Yeah.
one question. What's
Sure.
behind door number 2?
I don't know. I can't believe it.
I thought maybe you had somebody
No,
else.
I don't. Yeah, I couldn't imagine that this little map turned into something here. But door number 2 has some issues, so it's going to be hard to figure
Okay.
that one out. And both all 3, 4, all of the different development areas all have infrastructure concerns, so they're not easy pickings. So we've who's the real estate guy, Gary? All the best corners are already taken, so we're kind of at the point where each one of those have little parts and pieces that are going to make it a little bit more complicated.
And access to the ramp is.
Access to the ramp is number one.
Big number one.
Is the big number one. So that's the piece. So for the folks that we're working with right now, it's going to be working on improvements to infrastructure that will help us get access to the ramp. We've been working on trying to increase what we call our Class A or our oceanfront property, but it's going to take some infrastructure and dollars that Mark and EA has heard about this before. So anyway, that's what's going on. So I'm here to answer any other questions.
Great presentation.
Yeah, it's
thank
nice
you
to
very
follow
much.
I think it's kind of fun
Great
to follow all of
reports.
us, see what's going on, and I was so excited to hear what you all have been doing and wondering about, so we're pretty excited about happening. So we had a wonderful meeting with TxDOT, so they gave us some very good advice. The new director is a company man. He's been with TxDOT probably for however his career, and he runs it. He's from the Maritime Division, so I'm going to say he runs it like a tight ship. And he is all about keeping up with his commitments on funding and grants and monies that they get from the FAA. So our last director was more of a lobbyist, not a lobbyist, but he wanted to know what was going on around, and he did a lot more meeting with people and more interactive. And so Mr. Harmon's been working on developing processes and plans. And so a lot of grants got given out as part of the CARES Act. So they ended up spending the first 3 months of his first 3 months at Aviation was just kind of getting through the whole grant business of getting all the funding out for the different CARES programs. And then now he's working on making sure that he keeps the pipeline full with what they call CIP projects, which is how the FAA gives money to the state of Texas, is through FAA funds. So we talked a lot about making sure what we need to do to keep our projects, so our infrastructure needs, in front of them. And they gave us some very good advice of early, often, and loud. So I'm like, I'm in. I can do that. So we're going to start working with them individually on getting some of these pieces that we look on needing some infrastructure taken care of. So again, all about relationships, and it was great that they all got to meet us and we got to meet them, and it was a really well received meeting. So it was nice to have it.
Have you seen traffic at the airport in light of COVID? Has it increased, decreased, stayed the same?
So throughout the bad months, like March, April, and May, the general aviation business stayed about the same. So people that had single engine planes like me or Don, we kept flying. We were still buying our fuel, going out, staying current, but the jet traffic fell off like a cliff, and the business jet traffic. So we've started to see it coming back. It won't be where it was last year, but it's starting to grow. So we've started to see some of what we kind of call the fractional jet traffic come back in. So the NetJets guys and the Wheels Up folks that can come from Dallas and San Antonio, or Dallas and Austin and Houston, will come out for the weekends. We're starting to see some of the deer season leases are starting to come through. And we just seen plain old business folks coming back in. So, I can look out my window and see that I know that there are people doing business here in Kerrville that are coming to do business here
Greg,
as well.
when the camps are closed,
The camps were closed, yeah.
that's it. No jets.
Yeah, no jets. It was
Now the deer
pretty quiet.
season opens, jets will come.
Come back in. So they're coming back in. We're starting to see some of that. And I'm looking forward to the first week in November. So yeah,
The other thing is what's happened is the price of fuel has dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
So that's,
that's helping.
that helps.
That helps.
That doesn't matter to the jet guys.
Yeah.
That matters to us.
Yeah, as we stopped flood. But anyway, yeah, the fuel prices got done. And then talking about sales tax, Amy, I wanted to let you know, so this MRO business is repairs and maintenance. So there's sales tax on that. And my bill gets pretty big, and I'm just a little guy. I can't imagine what an MRO bill will be on a jet. So we'll need to start tracking on some of that stuff as well, of making sure we understand that. I don't know, Don, I don't like looking at
Oh,
mine.
yeah, we think $1,000 is normal. They think $10,000 is normal.
Normal. Yeah, so we'll start tracking some of those as well, just kind of keeping our mind on where that ends up and making sure we get things squared away on that. So I was thinking about that the other day. So.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in and say hi.
Oh, Mary, thanks for HEB, by the way.
Sure, anytime, guys.
Our next item on the agenda is executive session, and I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session under section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.087 to discuss the KMM Business Development Project and the Peterson Farm Road proposal.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Second, motion is second. All right, we are adjourned to executive session at 4:53. All right, 5:12, we're out of executive session. No action for items discussed in executive session. Next item on the agenda is items for future agendas. Anybody have anything they want to add? I'd like for us to add to the agenda for next month to discuss a pay down on the K-Pub loan and how we might want to kind of just want to kick that around and talk about how to do that, and instead of just paying interest only, if maybe we look at starting to make some principal payments over the course of the next 4 years. That's the only thing I had. Anybody else? Any announcements?
No.
None? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you guys.